You have a lot going on, and we won't keep you long. I did get a chance to look at the Facebook report from the City Council Water Department meeting the other night, and I know you didn't get any real answers from anything over there about whether or not the city of Centerville was going to be able to provide any water to the prison project, or at least what I heard them say is that they didn't have the capacity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you got out of that meeting?
That's what I got. It was a small meeting because there wasn't enough for a quorum, but we were able to get some questions answered as to whether we could have that kind of capacity. And they don't run. They're about a mile away from where the proposed prison is going to be going. So it's even further than we had thought originally. But from what I have gathered is they don't have the resources nor the capacity to be able to supply what this prison would need. Now we're estimating on 500,000 gallons per day. And we're getting that number based on what is being used currently at the Bibb Correctional Facility, based on their number of inmates. Now, the question is, if the city of Centerville cannot do it, the city of Montevallo cannot do it, town of Wilton, town of Randolph, nobody has that. The option is, do they build their own well? Do they drill their own well? Which led us to more information and asking more questions and talked with some great people in the state of Alabama offices about exactly where our water comes from and which aquifer it comes from, and learned so much about the water in our area. And where our aquifer is what's considered an undefined aquifer. So it's not like you have a pool that you can get that water directly out of, but the water actually filters into the cracks and crevices of the rocks itself. If they were to drill their own well, what it's going to do is the size of the pump and the amount of the pump is going to be a major zone of influence, and it's actually going to pull water from miles around. So it's not going to be affecting just Bibb County, but it also Shelby County, but it would also be affecting the Little Cahaba River as well as Mahan Creek that is listed as an impeded creek currently. So we have some grave concerns about, and that's just one of our environmental questions about this property.
Okay, Jackson. Well, let me go back and I should have done this to start with and set this up just a little bit, because some of the people who might see this video might not know the background here about who you are and why we're talking to you from the Bibb Voice. This is Jackson McNeely, of course, and she lives in the Brierfield area and is at the center of a group of people who got the surprise when they were informed that the state of Alabama plans to build a prison in their neighborhood, and is one of the organizers of a group of people who are trying to get information and to determine what they can do about that, because they haven't, if I understand it right, gotten any cooperation so far from the state about giving them any information about details about what the state plans to do. Jackson, is that correct? At this point in time, is the state of Alabama giving you any information? Do you actually know where they're building the prison and any details about the project itself, about how big it's going to be, or those facts that you just repeated, are you just guessing at this point in time?
We're having to guess. What we have is what Governor Ivey's office gave us with a press release at the beginning of September. And she gave us a little bit more information than the two other sites. She actually said it was at the corner of 139 and Highway 2. So we were able to start from there and start looking at tax records, who owns what lands, how many acres. And so we've really surmised by going through those tax records and talking to the residents that it would be one of the Westervelt properties, if not both.
So you don't know at this point in time how they plan to provide water and sewer to this proposed prison, do you?
No, the closest sewer option is going to be either Montevallo or Centerville or if they were to have their own waste treatment facility.
And nobody's told you if they plan to build a facility near the prison. I'm talking about a sewer facility.
No, we have gotten no information. So we've really had to start digging and looking at our infrastructure and what we have and what resources we have here in the area. We have talked with the different towns in the area, the different cities in the area. And at this moment of this time, there has not been any requests, nor are they capable of handling both the water and the sewer that would be needed for 3,100 prisoners.
Okay. So where would, what's the nearest main tributary or watershed where sewage or where the environmental impact of a sewer, a pond or settlement pond or treatment pond, where would that, the impact of a spill or a lack of containment, where would that probably show up?
You're going to see it going the closest. You have Smelly Creek, Furnace Creek, and those all go in tributaries of the Little Cahaba.
Okay.
Mahan's on a little bit further north, but it does run close because all of our little fingers of water seem to run in together. But that main outcome is going to be the Little Cahaba.
Okay. So is anybody working with you? I know you're a resident up there. Is your group organized to any extent at this point in time?
Very organized. We actually have divisions and pockets of people. There are three main issues we're looking at to stand on to try and block the Brierfield Prison, of course, is the constitutionality of a 30-year contract when our state law says you can only do a contract year to year. Historical, for the fact that we are a historical community, and environmental. So we have groups of people that are in those divisions. We have a person who is in charge of our social media, helping with our marketing. We have a person who's in the historical division. We have a person who's in charge of our signs. And so we have really made a flow chart to make sure that everybody knows what they're doing and we talk to each other. I'm directly talking with our allies that have come from even out of state and nationally to help us with this. So there's a lot of moving components to this. Alabama Appleseed has been really great in getting us environmental information. The Southern Environmental Law Center is also interested in this from their standpoint. We have the Alabama Justice Initiative has been in working with the SPLC, the SCLU, the ACLU, and the NAACP.
Okay.
So a lot of different organizations that are coming together for this.
Okay. Do you want to share the names of any of the local people that are working with you that are organizers at this point in time that are contact people other than yourself? Do you want to share those names?
No, and this is off the record, but we have quite a few professors at the University of Montevallo. And some of them are environmental professors, and so we don't want to put their job in there because they're residents of Brierfield, but they can't go out and say they're doing this.
Okay, understand. Well, do you have anybody that's helping you try to negotiate or get information interfacing with the state of Alabama, either with the Department of Corrections or with the governor's office?
We have made several requests, FOIA requests. We've even had reporters who have come out that they have tried to get FOIA requests done. There is a group out of New York that is doing a documentary on the prisons. They came here when the Department of Justice's inspection report first came out because they wanted to do a documentary, and then this announcement came. And so they've changed up the documentary a little bit and are going to be following us fighting this from a grassroots effort. So it's really exciting on that part, but they've been able to ask for information and they've still been denied. I mean, we're constantly, whether it's from a reporter standpoint or whether it's a resident standpoint, we are not getting any answers except the same statement and talking points over and over again that is coming out of the governor's office or the Department of Corrections.
Okay. So Are you planning, I know you've had one public meeting, at least that I know about, where you've had local residents attend, and I think that was your organizational meeting. Are you planning another public event?
We are. We're planning a public event for next week. We originally had made that event just as the community of Brierfield, and bringing in the city of Montevallo as well, because this is really going to affect them, and let them know, because there's so many people that don't know what's going on. Then we received information from Cam Ward that he was setting up a meeting with the Department of Corrections, and somebody from that office was going to be coming in. Unfortunately, it's next week and we still don't have a date, nor do we have a time, but we were going to have it, we have reserved the pavilion at Orr Park so that we can make sure that we're socially distancing, and there's light out there and things like that. So that would be a meeting that wouldn't be just the residents. It would also include Cam Ward and the Department of Corrections. I have not heard if the governor's office would be sending anybody.
You think that's going to be next week?
That's according to what Mr. Ward has said, yes.
Okay. So do you have people, I'm talking about residents and people who are opposed to this, do you think that you have enough opposition to this, that people are willing to spend money or help raise money to fight with the state about it, to try to block it?
I really do. I think that that's going to be one of our next steps. Kind of going back and forth whether or not to do a GoFundMe or that. We're in negotiations right now with some attorneys. So that would be a next step. But yes, I think it's not just us in Brierfield, not just us in Bibb County. When you have a state elected official that usurps normal community policy and doesn't even have a discussion with them before announcing this big of a change and something that is going to honestly affect our quality of life, I think that that's angered a lot of people throughout the state.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
I know there's 1,000 questions I know that people would like to ask about this, and I know everybody has their own issues, but my question for you is, as you're gathering information, what do you think your strongest objections are? And I'm a lawyer, so I think in terms of defenses. What's your strongest defense that you can raise?
It really is our environmental, constitutional, possibly, maybe. We're working with our state auditor, Jim Ziegler. He was so successful in stopping the I-10 toll bridge that they had wanted to do when Kay Ivey brought in some Chinese companies and things like that. He was one of the first people that we went to and said, hey, I need help. And so he has been instrumental in kind of helping us and give us a little bit of direction. But I think even historically, whether there was a Civil War skirmish, Native American burial ground, those are all possibilities, but really it's the environmental issues because the Little Cahaba is protected. I mean, that is an environmentally protected waterway. We've talked with the Cahaba River Society, Cahaba River Keepers, and they're not normally politically involved, but they have been amazing when it comes to the resources because they're also concerned about what this could be. And it could be from the wastewater standpoint, from the watershed standpoint, from the drinking water standpoint. I think that this is a very, very big issue because when you're having something built that's this size, and it was kind of explained to me, when you put that asphalt on top of the ground, you lose that area for the water. And so it rediverts and it causes corrosion within the area. So we're going to see corrosion from rainwater and the wastewater or the water runoff that's going to cause problems, to our citizens and to our farmers.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, it sounds like that you are getting a lot of input and advice from a lot of different organizations that could be helpful because they probably have enough weight to help you battle government. And that's what you need at this point in time. David, do you have any questions? for Jackson?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity to ask a question or two. Jackson, I know that you are certainly a marketing and promoting individual who knows how to organize and put things forward in a coherent and understandable way. And the Brierfield community has a real champion in you. And I know they are going to get results. Y'all are going to get some results. I know that. My questions comes from the area of trying to get all sides of the story. And I think it's a very difficult situation in that I believe our state government has operated, let me just say it this way, with a lack of good faith. Either they don't trust the people, or they're under such pressure from political events that they're operating in a unfaithful way by not letting the people know what's going on. And I would like to see that change. I've been doing some digging and some research, and I've also lived a long time. Y'all may not have noticed that, but I remember back when you've been around a while too, Mike. Yeah, I thought I saw some bruises.
I noticed it, yeah.
Well, I recall back in the 70s, late 70s, when the federal government took over management of and control of our prison system here in Alabama. Jackson, you're probably a little bit younger, remember that, but I remember it. And I'm wondering where the pressure is coming from on our state officials to cause them to act in this way and to move with the speed which they have and the stealth that has been used to keep this from being publicly discussed. I was involved when the state prison was located in Brent back years ago. And it was an effort that was basically spearheaded in our community here by the Chamber of Commerce, some members of the Chamber of Commerce, myself included. And we had learned back years ago that there was a talk of a federal prison being built in Alabama. So the individuals that I worked with primarily was Jerry Powell, Dave Rigdon, somewhat with Bobby Leach and some others who were with the Chamber of Commerce here. And we felt like that a federal prison would be something that our community could reap some benefit from. So myself and these others, we began to talk about what we could do to try to see a prison be located in our area, because we were told that there would be 700 jobs available at these prisons, and we wanted our community to have good jobs and have good opportunities. So we began to do some digging and some research and to ask a lot of questions. We didn't do it like the state's done at this time. We actually went to the people and had public meetings and discussed whether or not the people of Brent and Centerville area, Bibb County, would be interested in having a prison located here. There were concerns at that time, obviously, as there are in any community, about whether or not it would be safe to have a prison located in a community. So we addressed as best we could those questions, and there's no way to say that it's not a concern. It is. And the community was chosen not by us, but by the State Department of Prisons, chose the area where the Brent prison is currently located. And we spoke with the people in Brent. We spoke with the people in Centerville. I think we had 3 different town meetings where we allowed people to come together and ask questions. And there were voiced concerns about people who were going to be near that location. There were people that were concerned about it, but I think the majority, if not all the people that I know about, came to the conclusion that if it would be good for the community, they would be willing to live with a prison in their community. And the result was that we had a prison that was built in Brent. And from my experience, I don't know of any real controversy that has arisen since that prison was built in the community, or any concerns that have been raised in the community about the safety or anything like that. So I'm saying all those things to say this prison and this plan to build this prison seems to be an entirely different thing to what we experienced before. I did get a little bit of an education in this, in that I have not seen 700 jobs materialize in Brent, Alabama since the prison was built. That's not a good thing as far as I'm concerned, because we were really seeking to have more jobs and better opportunities for the people in the community. So that's a minus in my opinion. But a plus, in my opinion, has been the way that this community, in particular the community of Brent, has supported and not raised too many questions about their concerns. And I'm sure, if you know, I don't live with the light of a prison in my backyard. And I know the people that do have had concerns about that, but I've also know that the majority of the people that I've talked to, in fact, I haven't heard one complaint myself. So with that being said, this is a whole new ball game for me, because I think the way this has been done, and unless the state steps up and gives people an opportunity to ask questions, get answers, and have some idea of the plan behind this, then they're not going to have the support of the community like we had when we built this prison here back 21 or 22 years ago. So that's my opinion on that. I would like to ask Jackson, if you are you interested, and will you be interested in naming the people that are going to be working together with you in this project, the different organizations? I know you've got a number of people you've talked with, but are they signed on to work with you and with your organization? What is the name of your organization first?
Block the Brierfield Prison.
Block the Brierfield Prison. And you've got Facebook and you've got website for?
We have a Facebook. We have the URL that's redirecting to the Facebook, just because we had to hit so hard, so fast, boots on the ground, and move forward. We just put the Facebook page together so we would have the information on the idea that possibly she gave us notification so that we had 90 days until she finalized it. So
you're saying Kay Ivey gave you, speaking of 90 days?
A lot of us, when we sat back and we talked with attorneys, they said, you probably have 90 days. She did this soft release of information before she plans. And she said that she would like to sign it by the end of the year.
Well, I was reading a post that Cam Ward made on July 12th in 2020 on his page about the prison. And in it, he is quoting the prison commissioner, Mr. Dunn, who said the completion of the new prisons is at least 2 to 3 years away. So if there is a window that is closing and we've got no more information than we do now, I would be very interested in helping the folks in Brierfield at least have an opportunity to be able to ask questions and get answers, some kind of answer from the state and the prison department on what's the plan, what's going to take place. And if the Bibb Voice can help in any way in doing that, we want to do that. That's why we want to speak to you. This is an important issue to our county and to the people in Montevallo and Shelby County too. And I don't think the answers have been forthcoming, and I think they're due. I think that the government owes some explanation. And if it is such a pressing issue to get this prison built, and I do know about the lawsuits that have been in the past, in fact, that the state of Alabama was under a 13-year management by the federal court systems. That specter has been raised again in this prison issue, in that it appears that there is the specter that the state of Alabama will again fall under court management of our prison system. And that seems to be a driving force in things being done the way they are. I'm not giving that as an excuse. I think that's all the more reason to tell people what's going on and why you're doing it. And so far, I don't think anyone at the state level has done that. So we want to bring you to the table of public disclosure of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and where you want to go. But we also want to give the state that same opportunity. And in fact, I think they should, if they want to see the kind of reception in a community like we had back then when we were working to get the prison located in Brent. They're going about it the wrong way.
Oh, yes.
You got to get the people at the table and give them a chance to ask questions, voice concerns, and see if you can find where there can be some common ground, if there ever is any. Now, I know the people in Brierfield don't want that prison there. I know that my pastor, who is there at the church at Brierfield, a fellow that I admire greatly, when he learned of all this, he came to me, he said, David, he said, I just want to know where God is in this. He said, what is God doing? Does he want us to be people that minister in prisons? I said, Joe, I don't know. I can't answer your question, but I do know that the heart of the people there are toward good things for everybody. And the state needs to come to the table and help us arrive at a place where, if it's not going to be built in Brierfield, where is it going to be built? It's not going to be a different need, I don't think, wherever it's built in the state of Alabama, if they're going to do this. It looks like it's going to be basically shoved down our throats, and I'm not real happy about that. And if we had done that in Brent, if we had shoved it down the people's throat in Brent, there would be controversy to this day about that prison in Brent. And so far, you can check with anybody in Brent you want to. I think nearly everybody as a man will tell you there's not been any controversy about the prison in Brent. There have been concerns, but no controversy. This is an entirely different thing we're dealing with in Brierfield.
It really is. And I think what's amazing, I'm very frustrated with our legislatures, because if they had read the DOJ's inspection report, they would have been aching to work together and make the changes, because what that DOJ report was, it was heartbreaking to see the conditions that our prisons are in and the civil rights that have been taken away from the inmates themselves. But at the very end of that report, it states, building new prisons is not going to help this situation. This is an issue that needs to go right to the heart of the Department of Corrections, and they need to clean it up. They have got to do something. When you are looking at 19 to 25% of the officers that you need per inmate, 25%. That is not acceptable. That is just not acceptable. And building a new prison, wherever it is, and how mega it is, and how technologically advanced it is not going to fix the systemic issue that we have seen from the 70s with our Department of Corrections.
Yeah, I think you're speaking of prison reform and also sentencing reform, where 3 strikes you're out, and all this other stuff that has been going on for the past 3 or 4 decades has not produced a workable situation for prisons in Alabama. There's got to be some other things happen too. I totally agree with that. But those things aren't being discussed as far as I know.
They're not. They're just, here's a new prison. That is cutting off our nose to spite our face. If we're going to be number one in something, it needs to be in football, not in the worst prisons in the United States.
Yeah.
But, you know, the good thing, when Joe asked you where was God, I see it. I have seen a community that doesn't necessarily see each other that often, from all walks of life, all races, all political affiliations, and everybody is coming together. And that's amazing. That really, really is. Everybody's come together to fight. So I see God there.
Yeah. Well, I also have some numbers here that are the states with the highest prison rates. That is incarcerations per 100,000 people. Alabama ranks at number 10, which surprised me. I thought we were higher than that, because I did see some information put out that said Alabama was number 1, and that's not true. Alabama is actually number 10. There are 486 incarcerations per 100,000 people in Alabama. That puts us at number 10, behind Louisiana, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Arkansas, Arizona, Texas, Missouri, Kentucky, and Georgia. So we're not the worst in that way. So we do need, I think, building prisons is not the answer for the future. It's finding prison reform and refining the laws so that we don't incarcerate people who are not dangerous to society, but we find other ways to rehabilitate and those kind of things. And those things need to be addressed along with
Yes.
whatever the state's planning on doing with prison. And we need to get the federal courts to, I think,
Yes.
work with us, not
Yes.
against us.
One of the questions, and we contacted the Middle Alabama Department of Justice to find out a little bit of information. Of course, the inspection report came from the Civil Rights Division of that. But one of the questions that we don't have answered is, since that report came out that talked about what needed to be fixed and gave those recommendations to the Department of Corrections, what has been done? It says new prisons aren't going to be the ideal, and it's not going to fix the problem, but we would like for you to do this, 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 and this. And we have not heard back from the state, the Department of Corrections, or the DOJ yet, but I'm sure that they're very busy. What has been accomplished on that hit list? What has the state done to correct those problems? I would really be interested in seeing that.
Well, let's do this again. Let's make sure that we keep an open channel of communication.
Absolutely.
We want to be involved in and know how to help the people of this community have a voice in what's going on in our community. We also want to bring to the table anyone that will speak with us from the state and help the people of this community get a better idea of what the facts are and the truth is about this, because it's not good to have something going on and the people don't know what it is. The people don't want to be blindsided, neither do I.
No.
So I appreciate you having this video chat with us. And we want to know when your next meeting is going to be. Please let us know.
I will.
And we'll look for an opportunity to inform the people of Bibb County in a better way than what we're currently getting informed.
Well, I appreciate you guys, reaching out to us, because this is something that's bad for Brierfield, but it's also bad for Bibb. And so I really appreciate you giving us a voice to express concerns and questions and what we have found out so far as to helping to block this.